All right, welcome to Bignastycollectables, and here's my late night jotter talk about what goes on in the Pokemon market, what goes on in Pokemon in general, theories, market, and so forth. Today I'm going to be going over grading. I'm going to be going over PSA, Beckett, CGC, and Tag, the new guy. We're going to go over them, and I'm going to explain to you the processes, how they're different, and honestly the quality of the grade. First off, we'll go with one of the big boys. It's going to be Beckett. Beckett has some of the coolest cases out there, where you're going to have the subgrades and you're going to have the big one, the grade. Depending on what level you get, once you get to 9, it goes gray. So it goes gray. Got the old stuff, which an 8.5 is really good for vintage. And they're pretty hard on vintage cards just because the cuts are off, the centering. It wasn't that great back then. And then also they're older cards. New cards. This is technically modern. Gets a 9 because the centering goes over surface, corners, edges, centering. Gives you the subgrades here. You can order them without the subgrades. I prefer subgrades. I've actually got all these graded myself. So I've gone through this process personally. These aren't just things that I bought already like this. Like, these are cards, if you go on my Instagram, where it was raw. I had 2 of them, sold one, and kept this one for my daughter. And then that same kiddo pulled the corrected Blaine's Zard, which we also got graded. This is the Pop 1, top of ever graded by Beckett. So this card has never gone above a 9 until her pulling it when she was 2 and she's 4, soon to be. And it got a 9.5, which is through the roof crazy, because, like I said, they never gave above a 9. And it being a vintage 25-year-old card, that's a phenomenal grade. Pack fresh. And then you got a 10. Modern, you got 1 for centering. You got 9.5. Corners was 10. Surface was 10. Edges were 10. If you were to get all 4 10s across the board in the subgrades, this then will become called the Black Label. Those are highly sought after, a whole different price range, not even on the same level as PSA or any of the other brands. Beckett being so hard with its grading, the prestige, the history behind Beckett, this is more of a collector's piece because it shows you the subgrades, and it's a very beautiful casing. This is something that you would have as a collector. Some high-end buyers buy these because of the value that they hold, especially Black Labels. So that's Beckett. Next, the top competitor next to Beckett is going to be PSA. Now, I do like PSA in some instances. Others I don't. Obviously, I got 10s, more modern cards. These are also cards I submitted. Their value is tip top. This is a good company. PSA is a good company to go for a vendor or a seller. The reason why I would say that is because new people into the market, they see PSA everywhere. Everyone sees PSA. It's the most commonly used grading company. It is the biggest grading company next to Beckett. And although Beckett has a higher end value, that same card, you could have a Glaceon V-Star from PSA in a 10, and you can have a Glaceon V-Star in a Black Label 10. That Black Label 10 is going to be worth more than the PSA. Sorry guys, it's late. Anyways, these cards, although that they're not Black Labels, PSA, they sell very well. They sell very quick, and people are just, sometimes they're kind of, as a collector, they want just PSA. They're nice, they're thin, they're sleek, but this isn't my best as a collector. I'm a big collector. I have PSA, CGC, Beckett. A lot of these are either cards that are on my shop, and some of them, like those Beckett's, for my personal collection. As you can see, they're missing some spots up there, but here's the 10s. Now, this is the downfall to PSA. These were all submitted in my last submission. Unfortunately, this one got injured at the last card show I went to. It fell. But although these got 10s, I submitted 3 Black Star promo Espeons. This was from the original first print 3-pack blister of Fusion Strike. Espeon got replaced with Eevee through the print, and towards the end it's now Eevee. So the beginning of that print had Espeon, Hollow Espeon, in there as a Black Star promo. I had several of them. I submitted 3 in for a shot at like a 10 or 2 10s or 3 10s, but they were all pulled by me. All these cards predominantly are pulled by me and my family. This is where I don't like PSA, right here. You got a near mint 8, a near mint 8, a near mint 8, 69, 70, 71. They're sequentially, they were all next to each other, and they all got 8s. There's no subgrades, so they don't tell you why. There's 0 white on the back. They were all mine. And I see this kind of stuff when I see 888 across the board sequentially, meaning they're one after another, means that they just got lazy and they just said, I'm going to give this card an 8. And didn't really look at the quality of the card. The fact that I had 3 of them submitted back to back to back, and they all got the exact same grade. It's not because of their centering. Their centering is phenomenal. And there's no white on any of them. For them to, I mean, if there was like an 8, a 9, and a 9, or a 9, an 8, and a 10, or, you know, then I'd be like, okay, they actually like looked at the cards, but to give me the same exact grade for all 3 of them back to back to back means that they just gave me the 8 on one of them and just rushed it, because there's no way you're going to send 3 of the same card near mint and get the same grade for all 3 of them. There's no surface damage on these. There's no edge wear. There's no, the centering is not off. It's between the 40-60 range, so it's there for a 10. So I'd say 9 with the chance of a 10, and to get 3 8s, that is why I'm not a big fan of PSA. Just because as a collector, I'm a big Black Star promo. I'm a promo collector, and to see this type of shenanigans where you get 8s back to back, it just shows that there's a little bit of laziness and inconsistency. Meaning, like, let's say you send in 3 felt tap Pikachus and they all get 8s. You're like, dude, what? How can 3 identical cards from 3 different packs that were graded at the same time next to each other get all the exact same grade? They were not treated the same. I mean, I don't understand that. And if they had subgrades to explain it, I think PSA would be a lot better for that. But because there's no subgrading, there's no explanation, they don't tell you why. That's why PSA Gem Mint 10s aren't worth as much as a Black Label 10. That's why PSA is not preferred for me as a collector, but as a seller, as a vendor, it's just what the people want. People like PSA, especially new people into the market in the last 5 years. They like PSA. Next, CGC. As you could tell, I brought 3 different grades this time. This is Groudon from Raging Surfs. This is the Japanese print of the modern Groudon illustration rare. It got a near mint 8.5, solely because of, it looks like there's a little bit of white edge wear. The borders look nice, so maybe the slight corner edge wear I can't really show it to you because it's encased, but it's right there. Sometimes cards get them right out the packs, but it's not. I'd say it's where it's at. You could potentially get lucky with a 9. Again, these are graded by a person. Beckett is graded by a person where they observe them under a microscope and they judge that card based off of the quality, the print, the cut, the surface, scratches, and area, and then they go from there. I think that some companies do a little bit of a pop control thing, but that's just me. Everyone has their theories. A 9. So this is a CGC Japanese T-Tar from Crossing the Ruins. This is a Neo Gen Pokemon. This is Gen 2. This is a beautiful T-Tar Hollow Tyranitar. It got a 9 because, I mean, I could see right here. You look at this card and that top border is very thin in comparison to the left and the right border. And that shows that that's just like it's not centered. The bottom one, if you look at the bottom in comparison to the top card, the top border of the card compared to the bottom, the header versus the footer. The bottom of the card is a lot thicker on that gold border, causing this card to be not a 10. This is a beautiful grade. There's no white on the back. There's no white on this card at all. The condition of the card is actually near mint. So a 9 is perfect because that's mint. The borders and the centering is what caused that card that way, and that was a big thing with vintage cards. That's why it's really, really, really hard to get a 10, let alone a 9. So for my daughter's Charizard to get a 9.5, that is phenomenal for like super vintage. And then we get something like this. This is called a pristine 10. This means this card has hit all its subgrades at a 10. There's no flaws with this card. The edges are perfect. There's no white. The surface has no scratching. The centering is perfect. The borders are all equal, which a 40 to 60, as I said earlier to PSA, there's a measuring card that you can purchase, and you can set your card on there, and if the borders don't fall within or without or outside of the 40-60 range, that's a little measurement tick on there, then that means the card is within the centering grade of mint. That card hits perfectly within the range, and it's a beautiful card. I love this Sleepy Drowsy. The artist is awesome. This is CGC. Again, this is done by a person. So you have Beckett. You have PSA. You have CGC. Now for the new guy on the block. The new guy on the block is Tag. This one is crazy. We're going to start with this 8.5. Actually, I'm going to go with this one instead. This 8 Flareon EX from Generations and this 8.5 Flareon EX, the RC20, the RC16, was it? RC 28 and 6. So RC6 and the RC28. Beautiful cards pulled by me. Pulled one with my daughter and one with my son. And those are the correct ones. But anyways, these two cards right here, by QR code, they send a full report and explanation and everything, which is freaking awesome. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. I'm just giving you the raw, it is what it is. These QR codes, you scan them, and it'll show you its subgrades, its explanation, its centering by measurement based off the scale I was telling you about. And it goes into depth as to why these cards got the 8 and the 8.5. Now, what was even crazier is that these two Flareons, out of all of the 8s, this Flareon is ranked number 1. Out of all the 8s that have been all of the Flareons that submitted that Tag gave an 8 to, this is the best 1 in an 8 by tag. This one is also first place for the 8.5 by tag. Now, the only thing that really hurts me is when I hear that as a collector, was like, it was such a good 8 that it could have been 8.5, and this was such a good 8.5 it could have been a 9. And I'm thinking, like, man, if the computer is pretty much saying like these are the best of the 8s, I could probably go to like PSA or CGC and get that 9, and or potentially have the luck of a 10 due to the inconsistencies. Tag is graded by artificial intelligence. It isn't graded by the human eye. It's created by like a high optic cameras, sensors, and scanning. So what they end up doing is they scan these cards, they do everything, they look for every nook and cranny, every printing error, every centering error, and every edge and surface error. And they will do it in different lights and different scans, and then they will have all of this in these reports, which is even crazier. So the reason why I like tag is because it explains to you as exactly why it got the grades, where are the flaws, and it's a really hard to get a 10. Now, these cards sat on my desk for a little bit of time. I was procrastinating, honestly, with grading them. This is a tag 10 Blastoise. This was not on my desk for long. My daughter pulled it, 2-year-old daughter pulled it, and yeah, it's pretty damn good. I do have, and if you want like a little bit of older cards, I have a tag 10 Charizard VMAX and a Charizard V, both of them from Champion's Path. I pulled them back to back. They're in my Instagram on one of the crazier things, even in my shorts here on YouTube. But those got tag 10s. This got a tag 10. So tag 10s are very achievable based off of essentially when you submit them. I think that, like, I keep my cards, they're really well kept in a controlled climate space, sleeved all the time. I even replace the sleeves if it gets too dusty. But I think that with tag, it's more of like, once you rip them, you should ship them. The more you sit on them, obviously there could be dust fragments that kind of get stuck and may make an indentation or a remark. But the thing is tag is so like crazy with their grades that it makes it discouraging for those 10s. And the downfall as a seller is that tag does not sell as well. It's new. They've only started doing Pokemon since I think 2020, 2021, maybe even later, like 22. I don't know, the last few years. Anyways, it's discouraging because of the how tough it is, and as a collector and as a seller, people just don't want tag because it's new to the game. They're the new guy on the block. They're not CGC, they're not PSA, and they're not Beckett. I do like tag. I'd say like the quality of their cases, feel, and they're aesthetically, like, they're beautiful looking. I mean, these are really cool cases. They're solid. You feel the quality in them. They're like a better version of the CGC ones. They're rounded. I like that. I don't really like the sharp stuff. Obviously, the sharper edges, with any small hit, they can crack off. I was really bummed about that with that PSA one. But the Beckett's are chunky. They're chunkies. But I do like them. I like Beckett's. So for aesthetic please, I would say Beckett at number 1. Tag at number 2, CGC at number 3, and PSA in 4 for aesthetic look of the case itself for grading. For prestige, for collecting, I would say Beckett at number 1, PSA at number 2, Tag at number 3, and CGC at 4 for collecting. Now for selling cards, PSA at number 1 for selling. Let's pop this 10 in the front because, PSA isn't that mean all the time. None of them are. They're just doing their job. But PSA at number 1 for selling. You can sell these cards, these slabs, quicker than any other slabbed Pokemon card out there. PSA is the one that everyone wants. Easy to sell and move. Then I would say CGC. CGC would be number 2 for selling purposes. And the reason why I say CGC is the only discouraging part about Beckett is that they're valued higher. So when someone is buying, if they're a new person into buying cards and collecting them, they're going to be like, why would I buy that Gengar VMAX for $700 in a 9 when a 9 for PSA is going for $550, $600, $100 cheaper? Why is that? Because they're not in the know as to Beckett's grading process. The prestige that it comes with as a collector is more valuable than a PSA, but that is why I put Beckett as third in sales. It's harder for me as a vendor, whether it's online in my online shop or if it's in a show or on a stream. Beckett, just the only deterrence of it is the sheer fact that its market value can be higher for the same card and the same grade that you get it at PSA or CGC or Tag. So I'd ranked this one first for collectors, this one first for sellers and vendors. This one is just like in the middle of the pack. And I think Tag is a good one if you really like collecting a certain style of card, but I think that it's really much if you're confident in those cards. Getting the 10, I think that Tag is pretty good. I think for affordability, I'd go CGC most affordable, Tag is second most affordable, PSA is third most affordable, and Beckett at fourth most affordable. Now, here is the disclaimer for all of these. Beckett, you send these cards in, and you get a card worth thousands of dollars, they're not going to upcharge you for giving you the grade, for giving you the best grade. Come on, PSA. Why? You just trying to get more cut from the cut you already get for doing the same job. If a card from PSA is worth above $1,000 and so forth, if it gets into certain tiers as desirable and higher in the market, well, PSA will charge you after the fact, after they give you the grade. Say you get a 10 on an Umbreon and you paid a $25 30-day return. So it means you paid $25 for a Moonbreon or a Sunbreon, the one from Prismatic Evolutions. You send that Sunbreon in, and you know it's a 10. They give you the PSA 10, Gem 10. Boom. You're like, heck yeah. That $25 grading service just got bumped like $100 because that card's now valued over $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever their tier levels are at that. PSA wants a bigger cut in their grading service for the sheer fact that they gave you a 10. I think that's so shady. I'm sorry, PSA. I do like doing stuff with you guys for cards, but for heavier and higher end cards, dude, if you pay for a service and I pay for a service, $25 valued service, where your cards and my cards come back to us the same time and the same way we submitted them in the same condition, just because you sent in that Sunbreon and I didn't send in $1,000 card shouldn't mean you have to pay more. So that's the biggest downfall of PSA for grading, is that you'd be essentially losing more money getting a 10 from them than you would from any other grading company, because CGC doesn't upcharge, Tag doesn't upcharge, Beckett doesn't upcharge. They have flat rates. They don't care what the card is. They will send you the grade for that card, and they'll give back to you in the time as to which you paid for that time to come back to you. So I think that's kind of a downfall to PSA compared to anyone else. But like I said, sellers that aren't selling high-end cards, more obtainable pieces like this one, this is like $130, $125 to $150 card. For a seller and a vendor, that's perfect. That's perfect, because I'm flipping a card I pulled from a pack, $25. That's me investing into that card, and I'm getting back those returns. Now, if you're sending in those like Moonbreons and Sunbreons and there's all these crazy cards that are worth what they're worth, that's when I would say go to Beckett, go to CGC, go to Tag. Just surely because if you're a collector and you want to keep that card for yourself, you're not going to be paying more for that card to get graded. Yeah, I think that's a little bit on the greedier side for PSA. It's a little greedy. But besides that, these are the lowdowns as to the 4 companies that I talked about at the beginning. Now, for the process, when you get a card and you evaluate, let's do this one. For instance, here we go. We have this Misty's Tentacruel, Japanese Misty's Tentacruel Gym Challenge. So you look, you check the surfaces. As long as the surfaces are good, there's no scratching on this side. Then you go on this side and you look. And you really got to be realistic with yourself. Don't try to like hope for that 10. You know, always be harsher. And so like say if you say, oh, this is a 9, then just be like, okay, it's probably an 8. Let's be real here. So there's like one little white tick up there, very small little white tick down here. And then if I look on the surface area under this lighting, I see that this card, when it was slid up and down, there's a very slight surface scratch. So I would say this is cards like a 7, possible 8. And then, you know, you look at it and you really got to think, like, is this card worth it? Is this card worth getting that $10 bump in value, that $20 bump in value, when you still have to send it in for $15 to $20? So like, say this is a $20 card right now. I pay $15 to put it in. That puts it at, I gotta get 35 back to break even, or 35, right? Then you gotta go, or it's a $20 card and it's a $15 thing. Let's go there. So I'm only gonna make $5 off of it if I don't get it graded. I'd make $5 more, right? So then I go and I charge that 15. I'm in the hole, so I'd only be up $5 if I sold this card. Now I get it back. It gets back a 7. That card's graded at like $42 in a 7. Okay, well, now the value of this card went from $20 to $42. That's great. It went up $22, but I paid $25 to do that. So I'm really 42, 25. That brings it back down to like 17. I just like, it's $3 less. I put $3 out of my pocket just to break even on a card I could have sold raw. So I think that, like, I know I was a little off with my whole explanation, but I hope you get the point there, is that you really got to look at the value of your cards, really be serious and hard on the grading perspective. Try to take yourself and the profit and like all the what ifs out of your head, and be really realistic with your grades. Obviously, you can see I got 10s in every single one. This one was a purchase with Gem Pristine 10, but I've gotten 10s up here. They're up on my wall. I just got this Pristine in, and I just like Drowsy, so I use this one as my example. But 10s across the board. I've got 9s, 8.5s, and so far I've got 6s before. Shoot, I have a PSA 1, but it's a beautiful card. Holofoil Swirly First Edition Typhlosion. Anywho, as I digress, let's get back to it. You sleeve them, say you got a card, you're like, this is worth it. This Rayquaza is a perfect 10. Like, let's just say it is. It's not, but let's just say it is. Perfect 10. Boom. I get a tab sleeve. Put that card in the tab sleeve. Put that card in a semi-rigid. You put it in a semi-rigid. And then it's going to go in an order down the list. Let's say I have all 3 of these Rayquazas on my thing, right? I have to put them in that order. So I put them tab sleeve, semi-rigid, tab sleeve, semi-rigid, tab sleeve, semi-rigid. I put them in this order by their listings when I looked them up in there, and I submitted them in the report. So I got to make sure that I stack them in the exact same order. I put the rubber bands around them, or I put cardboard pieces on each side. Then I put a rubber band around each way, and then I send them off with the instructions as to what they want, whether it's the paper with it, paper on top of it, just in that order. And then you submit them off to get graded. You wait the amount of time that you paid for to wait, and then when you come back, everyone who acts like, oh my god, this is my first time ever looking at these grades. By the way, they send you the report with the grades in the report. PSA sends it to you before you get your slabs. They all send them to you before you get your slabs. You could just choose not to look at them. I have a hard time with that. But I think the presentation, they just give you a list and it gives you the pop. They give you a list and it gives you the pop. They give you a list, it gives you a pop. But tag is freaking awesome because it gives you the card, it gives you the full report, and they do a cool after case displayed picture with an all black background in a stand with your card looking freaking nice. I think those pictures for these tag cards, they go above and beyond. They send them to you with these plastic sleeves tucked away underneath your set that's solely secured in a nice beautiful box that has the tag sticker stamped over it. It's by far the presentation coming back to you is light years beyond. So I'd say this ranks number 1 in packaging. Then I would say the PSA ranks number 2 in packaging. I just love when you open up a PSA box and it just says PSA on the inside. CGC and Beckett are tied for 3rd. Nothing special, no crazy boxes, no beautiful presentation. I think tag goes way beyond. All of these were individually sealed. They were individually, like, you got to rip them like a Pokemon card pack. And then when she got the card out of the airtight package, they had sleeves tucked away underneath all of your like individually packaged slabs, ready to slide them in to protect them. It was just beautiful, and the pictures that they give you are beautiful. I love it. I think that was my best thing about tag is the experience, getting them back and seeing how they treated them and how well that they praised every single card pretty much, which was pretty awesome. And then I like back PSA in number 2. When you do get your grades online, they do have like a cool review application that you can use. You can't do it if you send them through GameStop or anyone else, but if you're directly the person that submits them to PSA, they have a cool app feature that flips. It's also in my Instagram that'll show you. I've shown one of them before, and the other companies don't have that. So presentation on the way back to you, I'd say tag at number 1, PSA at number 2, then Beckett and CGC tied for 3rd. Overall, I hope you guys like my rundown, my explanation of all 4 of these. My recommendation is if you're a personal collector that want to get your cards graded, go with tag. I think that they're going to go up in value the longer they grade. They did sports for 20 years already, so I'm not too worried about them and how they're going to do Pokemon. But go with tag because they just aesthetically look beautiful. They feel good, and I just felt like it was Christmas Day when I got to reopen them from their individual sealed cases. It was pretty cool. They were all blacked out, just the tag on them. It was pretty awesome. Go with tag if you're a personal collector. If you're a high-end collector that has like pretty high-end stuff that's minty, Beckett. Go with Beckett. If you're a vendor, and I'm not talking like high-end vendors, go with Beckett or CGC. High-end vendors, go with Beckett or CGC. Just a vendor who's pushing cards that's trying to flip hundreds, say like, you know, 150, 250, 350, $400, $500, $600 cards, PSA is where it's at. That's why PSA is so good, because majority of the people have $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $800 valued cards, and they paid that $25 flat rate to get them back in a month. And PSA is great for that. They're great for that. They just need to fix that consistent grading thing. I think that inconsistency like that's just kind of, that's oof. And then that upcharge once you break over a G or 1200, that's a oof. PSA, come on, get with the rest of them, do a flat rate. Don't upcharge after the fact. Don't upcharge people for you giving them a gem intent. Don't do that. Overall, I like Beckett, I like Tag, and I like PSA, and I like CGC. CGC, I have no complaints about CGC. I really love their gold, pristine 10s, but Tag did their case better. Beckett did their labels better, and PSC just sells better. So I can't really, you know, put them at top in any of those categories. But they're still a good company to go with, and they treat your cards right, and they get stuff done, and it's affordable. That is all I have for grading. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have one last thing, and it's to open a pack of Destin Rival. So here we go. Haven't opened a pack in a hot minute. So let's see what we got here. Leaf Energy, Porygon, I like that. Porygon's pretty cool. The Rotom V, Impidimp, Shroomish, Ogerpon, Mimikyu. This is an interesting group. Morgrim, Reverse Holo Beldum, Ultra Rare Gold Mewtwo. Okay. All right, that's not a bad way to end. Always have sleeves ready. Heck yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Give me a like, shoot me subscribe. Check out my TikTok and my Instagram. They're more funny rather than... No, they're pretty educational at times, but it's really brain rot. They're really just good, funny entertainment with a lot of funny stuff and a lot of cool rips and cards that I've pulled either from the past, present, and the future. But check me out. Big Nasty out.